Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche. And this week, I want to talk to you about vernal pool observations that I've made and proper etiquette when monitoring vernal pools. So, this is a follow up to the Vernal Pool Patrol training Monday with Martha, number 198 that I did. So, sharing some of the highlights from that training event, and Monday with Martha, number 96, about vernal pools and why they're such important ecosystems. So, I had a great time out at the Chippewa Nature Center and Little Forks Land Conservancy properties during that training, and I'm excited to share our findings and examples of the species that you might see if you step out and do some vernal pool patrolling of your own. But I wanted to stress how to monitor and survey and in vernal pools and how to do that respectfully and responsibly. So it's really important to use the right equipment and make sure that all of your equipment is clean and properly disinfected. So I'll put in a link to the Michigan Vernal Pool Patrol's hub. They have some great training resources, including a full disinfection protocol. But here's a look at some of the tools that you might want to monitor with the proper cleaning equipment, like a turkey baster for sucking up small macroinvertebrates out of the water. A dry erase board is handy to take your vernal pool photos in different directions. Having a good, clean aquatic dip net is helpful, and a magnifier and various containers for holding some macro inverts, getting a closer look at some things. So you want to, for monitoring vernal pools, and honestly this is true of working in any wetland habitats, you want to make sure you're starting with clean disinfected footwear, whether that be your knee-high boots or your waders, and clean disinfected survey equipment. You want to minimize the spread of disease and invasive species, propagules and individuals. So just as an example, red leg disease, which is caused by a fungus, can wipe out all amphibian life in a pool within 2 weeks. So this is why it's so important to carefully disinfect. So that involves a 3% bleach solution. So that's taking a cup of chlorine bleach that has a 6% concentration of sodium hypochlorite and mixing that with 2 gallons of clean water. And you want to, when you're monitoring, you want to remove, rinse, scrub with a stiff brush get as much debris off at a site, at a given site as possible before going like back to your car to the parking lot. And then you want to soak your footwear and equipment, anything that's come in contact with the water or the site, soils, and you want to do that wash and scrub in the 3% bleach solution and then rinse with clean water. And it's really great if you can let everything dry out in between sites if possible. And you want to make sure you're containing the solution and disposing of it properly. So I thought it was really great at the training. They had us standing in this tub, and they were using a little pump sprayer to disinfect our boots. And then that's easy to put a lid on that and carry the tow and dispose of that bleach water properly by pouring it on asphalt or cement or a hard road bed well away from water bodies. It's also important to remember your size relative to the many of the species using these vernal pools. As Lindsay with Chippewa Nature Center put it, we're like Godzilla going through their habitat, And so we should do that as carefully as possible. So step carefully, watch where you're walking. Don't overly disturb or trample an area. You can see here this garter snake is swimming into some murky water where we had just walked. So there is disturbance in doing this monitoring. So it helps not to walk or trample into the water. Try to minimize that. It's great to use polarized sunglasses so you can look into the water along the edge from the upland, looking for submerged egg masses of frogs, toads, and salamanders. You definitely don't want to step on those. So here's a look at what those submerged eggs look like. You can see the gelatinous circles. These have a milky white. These are non-viable salamander eggs. If they were viable, that would be like a dark center. So you can see lots of fairy shrimp swimming around too. So you certainly wouldn't want to stomp all through this edge. Just try to approach from one direction and stand still. Let the sediment settle and make your observations. Close-up look of some of those non-viable salamander eggs. Out of the water, you can see the gelatinous coating. And if you do need to look at the eggs, you can pick them up, do that carefully, and take a photo and put them back in the water as quickly as possible. This drippy look to the egg mass, and that some of them are laid singly, those were probably blue spotted or unisexual salamander eggs, especially considering how many of them were non-viable. And this is my friend Rita taking a dip net sample. She was checking carefully, making sure no eggs on that particular stick, and then she'll sweep carefully with the aquatic dip net. I think she found a caddisfly. She's checking the leaf material she dug up, looking for fingernail clams and things like that. And she did net a caddisfly case. So when you collect aquatic organisms, it's important to add water to your holding case while you make your ID or take some photos or just enjoy seeing these really neat organisms. So here's another look at some of the things that we netted. You can see the caddisfly, and they build a case around themselves. This one's moving around with its case built out of different sedge or other plant material. The orange thing swimming legs up is a fairy shrimp. They're a great vernal pool indicator species. And you can tell that's a female. Below the legs, you can see the egg case. And fairy shrimp eggs can survive several years in vernal pools. They can withstand and may even require that drying out of vernal pools, and possibly also require freezing before they will hatch. So a very unique vernal pool species if you've never seen one in person. Super fun. Here's another look with a different observation case. More fairy shrimp. I could really see the caddisfly larvae and their cases. And then the thing swimming around with the spade-shaped head is a Chaeoboridae midge larvae. I'm certainly not a macroinvertebrate expert, but there were some great people at the training who are much better at it than I was. And so I got to see things I didn't even know existed and learn about some new species. Here's a close-up look of a female fairy shrimp. You can really see that egg mass. And then here's a male fairy shrimp, more kind of green in color and lacking that bulge above the tail, so no eggs. Here's a look at a fairy shrimp for scale against some different life stages of mosquitoes. So the wigglers are the ones with the whiskers along their heads, and they have a tube that they use to take in air off of their tails. So that's the larval mosquitoes, and then they pupate. So the pupa, also known as tumblers, are the little bit chunkier looking things that looks like it's doing somersaults in the water. And this is my friend Jeannie pointing out that's another caddisfly. But also in here are, I think, 3 different mayfly larvae. They have the fluffy looking abdominal gills and 3 very distinct tail filaments. So you can see those along with the mosquito larvae swimming around in this dipper cup. And we also got to see some crayfish. And this female has egg sacs still attached. So it was neat to see that. You can also know that this species is present by the crayfish chimneys along the edge of the vernal pool. This is a close-up of fingernail clams, which are also regularly found in vernal pools. And then we were seeing what looked like a bee, but is actually some type of hoverfly, either a marsh fly or bog fly. Again, not an entomologist by training, but it was really neat to see that insect life, and they do have aquatic stages. I think it's really important to talk about log flipping and how to do that. You want to lift carefully as you're looking for salamanders. Pick up that log, look for salamanders, snakes, other individuals. If you find an animal, it's important to observe it quickly, and you don't want to drop or put that log back down on top of them just in case something is shifted. So it's correct to place the animal beside the log. You replace it, put the log down first, and then put the animal back next to it and allow them to find their way back underneath. And that way you don't accidentally crush the individual animal. So this was a blue-spotted salamander that we observed, and that is another one of those vernal pool indicator species. You don't see this particular salamander in wetlands that have fish populations that can feed on the eggs and the larvae. So this is a vernal pool dependent indicator species, and boy are they charismatic. I think so many people love vernal pool monitoring and go with the hopes of finding one of these cuties. It's also important to mention appropriate handling of amphibians. They can very easily absorb harmful chemicals through their skin, and many of the land-living adult salamanders don't have lungs, but they breathe through their skin and their mouth membrane. So it's very important that you have cleanly washed hands before you head out to do vernal pool monitoring. This speedy little guy is a lead phase of the red-backed salamander. And I go into detail about this species in Monday with Martha number 18. You want to make sure your skin is free of lotions, oils, sunscreen, insect repellent, and hand sanitizers. And it's even better yet if you can coat your hands with muck or mud to help provide a safe and more natural barrier between your skin and theirs. Or you can place them in a clear container for a quick observation, a few photos. But it's really important as you're handling them that your hands are moist, or the container is moist, and that you're keeping their skin moist. Don't detain them for too long. Do your observations for a few minutes and then place them back in their habitat. Let them get back to the leaf litter so they don't dry out. So I wanted to briefly show you some other herpetofauna, reptiles and amphibians that you might encounter as you're vernal pool monitoring. So if you stand quietly and look out into the water, you might see a wood frog, like this one here. They are another vernal pool indicator species, really require these ecosystems to lay their large egg masses and be able to reproduce without significant predation from fish or big populations of larger frogs like this green frog or bullfrogs. Here's a quick listen to the squeaking, chuckling sound that the wood frogs make during the spring. Vernal pools are a great place to see some of our native snake species like this eastern garter snake. Lots of food for them, especially with all the amphibians around, and some of our native turtle species. So just be mindful of where you're stepping, make good observations, report to the Michigan Herp Atlas as you find things. And remember that as you're picking these species up, you never want to like jerk them up by their tail. You want to handle them carefully and support their bodies as you pick them up. This is a lovely little northern brown snake. The adults don't get much bigger than this. And then here's a beautiful female Blanding's turtle, another species you may find in vernal pools and other wetlands. And for turtles, you just want to make sure that you either support their bodies, again, don't pick them up by their tails, support their bodies from underneath, like this pizza box style hold, or grip between their front and back legs, the sides of their shells. Just keep your fingers out. They and eastern box turtles can close or partially close their shells, so you don't want to get your fingers in there. But it's important to, hold them carefully and handle them minimally. Take photos and then release them back where you found them. And just a reminder not to handle species that are listed. We do have some rare turtles. Spotted turtle and wood turtle are examples, and Blanding's turtle is under review. It's special concern in the state of Michigan, but being considered for state and federal listing under the Endangered Species Act. So we want to be mindful of that, and if you don't have the correct permits, you really shouldn't be handling those rare species unless they are in immediate danger. You are allowed to remove them. Say you see them crossing a road and there's a car coming, something like that. You are allowed to move them in that instance. And also, as you're reporting, just make sure if you're posting pictures of rare species to social media that you avoid geotagging those photos, or inadvertently saying or indicating the location, because turtles especially, but other rare species are prone to poaching for the pet trade and other reasons. And after handling reptiles, you want to make sure you wash your hands with warm soapy water. Afterwards, I have my pair of gloves ready to help with an assist of snakes or turtles crossing roads because it's that time of year. But that can help with that until you can wash your hands. I hope that sharing these highlights of the Michigan Vernal Pool Patrol training that I went to and just showing you some of the neat things that you could see inspires you to get out into the woods and do some late spring vernal pool monitoring of your own. In northern Michigan, our second monitoring should happen late April through the month of May, in southern Michigan until about mid May. And this is when biodiversity is generally at its highest. You'll probably see wood frog tadpoles, more likely to see turtles, and you may still get to see some fairy shrimp. So I hope you get a chance to get out and enjoy our vernal pools this spring. Take care and have a good week.